On the 23rd of April 2015, the national president of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement and the head of state, President Paul Biya, created the CPDM Academy with the aim of inculcating tenets of the party to militants, both new and old. It should be noted that the CPDM remains the dominant force in Cameroon's political landscape since its creation back in 1985. 6 months later, the national coordinator and deputy of that academy were named and their job descriptions were spelled out. 5 years after, we shall be looking at what the academy has done to keep the flames of the CPDM burning and how resilient is the party in the face of growing political and socio-economic challenges in the country. That will be our main focus on the program. This is our talk. Welcome back. Our guest tonight is a seasoned political science and international relations lecturer, member of the CPDM Central Committee, who served as minister in charge of missions at the presidency and later Minister of Forestry and Wildlife. Today, he is coordinator of the CPDM Academy and head of the permanent divisional delegation of the CPDM for Kupem-Wanenguba, that's in the southwest region of the country. Professor Elvis Ngole Ngole, welcome to Hard Talk.
Thank you, Peter. It's a great pleasure to be on your very prestigious show. Again, it is Hard Talk, and I'll try to be perhaps not so hard, hard enough, but at least I'll try to be frank, because I know that you have a prestigious audience, and it's an audience that is curious, and it's an audience that is pretty interactive. And I think we, in our candor, in our true conscience, we should be frank and talk with them in a frank and perhaps not so hard manner, but obviously your program is titled Hard Talk.
Yes.
Yeah, but we try to be frank.
Exactly.
Perhaps that's really what matters.
And thank you to Professor. The pleasure of having you is also shared here with us. In October 2015, 6 months after the CPDM Academy was created, you were appointed to head that academy. It's been 5 years today. Not so much is being heard about the academy. What could be the balance sheet in the last 5 years?
Well, the first thing for the audience to know is that the creation of academy is a reflection of the desire and the commitment by the national president of the CPDM and president of the Republic, President Paul Biya, to put in place a political party that he is the founder and he is the president, but a political party that is made up of citizens who are militants, but not just militants who are just consuming propaganda or false knowledge. He wants to have a political party, the CPDM, which is made up of members. We call them militants, who are men and women, young and old, but who are imbued with knowledge that is based on facts, knowledge that is scientific, knowledge that is verifiable, knowledge that can enable them to interact with others, knowledge that can enable them to contribute to building the country, and knowledge that can enable them to be good Democrats, debating with other citizens, be they members of other political parties. The bottom line being that we are all builders, we are all partners, and we are all contributing to the construction of a better Cameroon. And that we can only do that construction if in our different political parties or in our different ways and we debate based on facts, we exchange views, we agree, we disagree, but that the bottom line is that while we may agree and disagree in our differences, we are all partners in constructing a better Cameroon, a better nation, in unity and peace. And that is why the CPDM Academy, since its creation in 2015, has been there. I happen to have had the honor of having been appointed the pioneer coordinator with my assistant. We work as per the decree that appointed us and that created the academy. We work under the management of and the authority of the Secretary General of the Central Committee, and the Secretary General is in fact the one who, from a managerial standpoint, is our boss, is my boss, who gives me instructions and gives us instructions on a daily basis, and we follow these instructions, and at the same time we submit memos to him based on what ideas we've got or what ideas people send to us, and that on the basis of that, the CPDM Academy puts in place programs of pedagogic programs. So the academy is a pedagogic structure of the Central Committee. It is really not a structure that does anything but pedagogy and trying to disseminate knowledge. And because democracy is only rich and enriched when citizens acquire as much knowledge and they are given as much knowledge, and that they debate with others with the knowledge that you've got, instead of living in ignorance or living based on propaganda. No, the CPDM is not a propaganda party. It's a party of the people, by the people, which is driven by facts and driven and scientific facts, for that matter, which is open enough to be able to debate with everyone, even including those who disagree with it, because at the bottom line is that the CPDM has no enemies. The CPDM doesn't believe in being closed. The CPDM wants to interact with other Cameroonians and make a better Cameroon together with other political parties and associations or actors.
Exactly, Prof. It's been 3 elections have passed since the creation of this academy. We had the senatorial elections, the presidential elections, and recently the municipal and legislative elections. Let's say 4 elections.
Yes.
What could be the input of this academy to ensure that the CPDM came out victorious as it did in these elections?
Yes, first, in the spirit and letter of the creation of the CPDM Academy, in our pedagogic role, we organize training seminars at all levels, from the lowest to the highest level. We organize information sensitization seminars. That is the main line of action, but we also have the responsibility to produce knowledge or information documents, such as pamphlets, books, reports, and so forth, that we give out, and also come up with articles in the press, written and contribute to media communications and exchanges. Since its creation, the elections that have taken place, as you've just said in your question, are elections which demanded that the militants of the CPDM are given ample knowledge as to the issues of the day. And as you know, in the last 4 or 5 years, the main issues of the day have been the problems in the northern and southern regions. Boko Haram in the
far north.
In the far north. The problems of economic problems of the youths, and problems that surround electoral issues or political issues, such as who who does what is the role of political parties, what is the role of civil society organizations such as NGOs. Our seminars have all been aimed at ensuring that our militants know what Cameroon is all about in terms of its history, in terms of its institutions, in terms of its political organization, in terms of its laws. Our militants ought to know what the CPDM party, out of 318 political parties that are in Cameroon, is, and how the CPDM party is organized, how the CPDM party, what are the principles of its creation, what are its objectives, and what are its methods, what is its constitution, what is its charter. We teach you, and what are the relations between the CPDM and other actors in society. All these are taught to our militants, because at the end of the day, the CPDM believes that through this sort of knowledge seminars or training seminars, we are making better citizens out of our militants, and we are preparing and contributing to a better country, and we are also living the true meaning in terms of principles and objectives of the CPDM as it was created in 1985 in Bamenda. And as you know, our national president, President Biya, is the architect and the greatest inspiration for this party, and he continues to steer the party within the framework of his political vision and his political philosophy. And so the party is strong because the president wants it so. The party is well seated because the president wants it so, and the party has militants that are pretty knowledgeable and that are not complex and are open enough to want to interact with other political parties or other citizens, even if they differ with them, because they are sure of their knowledge. They are not afraid of discussing, agreeing or disagreeing, because they are sure of their facts. They are sure of where they get their facts from, and they are sure that if they are wrong, of course, the facts will be proven that they are wrong. If they are right, the facts will be proven.
But, Prof, some people might say that the reverse is true, because if these militants are well drilled, like you put it, what explains the constant intestinal clashes, especially during elections? We find the base not happy with what maybe the Central Committee is doing pertaining to the choice of certain candidates. What explains those hitches?
Yes, I agree with you that usually during elections there tends to be sometimes, as you say, a lot of heat, a lot of emotion, a lot of sometimes what looks like there might be chaos. But again, perhaps that is why I, as a political scientist, I feel comfortable on my seat as a pedagogue, and a coordinator of the party, because we anticipate and expect this sort of emotion, this sort of excitement, this sort of passion, and sometimes even outright disagreements, and sometimes outright near disorder. But the bottom line is that this disorder, or I mean, these passions and these emotions are natural, because look, political parties are associations of citizens who agree on working together on a common platform based on a common ideology or a common set of values, in order that they can attain power, meaning the political power, and preserve that power for as long as they can. Now, as human beings, while they may agree on the political platform and the values and the principles and objectives of the party, the tendency is that their human nature or their human instincts and reflexes sometimes tend to betray them at certain moments, because, as you know, in the search for political power, some individuals sometimes forget that the supreme interest is more important than the private or individual interest. And so the tendency is that in elections, especially local elections or elections where you elect members, let's say, in councils or in the National Assembly.
Elections by universal suffrage, for example.
Yes, the individuals put in front their personal ambitions and their personal interests. And sometimes these personal ambitions and these personal interests violate, defy, or betray their commitment to the common interest, meaning the supreme interest of the party, because at the end of the day, we are all human beings. And it is because of our culture, our acculturation, it is because of our training, our education, and our upbringing that we all agree that, look, even though we may be individuals, let us agree to forge our differences in order that we can be a strong force to work together. So these are human failures, human frailties. And that is why the political party itself, the CPDM, as a political party, is also a political actor. It's also an agent of political socialization. It's also an agent of political education. It's also a builder. It's a nation builder. And so, knowing very well that as a political association called a political party, we all have a supreme interest in ensuring that we attain power and preserving that power. The tendency is that in the internal workings of the party, in terms of its internal organization, structural organization, from the top to the bottom, or from the bottom, meaning the cell, all the way to the national president, in terms of its methods, in terms of its charter, its constitution, its bylaws, the tendency is to ensure that the militants understand the raison d'etre of the party, the raison d'etre for them being militants, and to ensure that because they have agreed to commit themselves to the supreme interest of the party, they should try as much as possible to suppress their individual instincts or reflexes, which may damage. And so every once in a while, like you've just alluded to, sometimes in certain constituencies, there is a lot of emotion and excitement, and some people forget their commitment to the supreme interest. And usually the party regulates that, regulates it through educational training, regulates it through other channels in terms of its internal organization. And so far, the CPDM has been successful at that, and that's why it's a leading party.
But does that not make the party authoritarian if the base says that this is a candidate and those above want to present another candidate? Where is the democratic nomenclature?
No, I tell you,
party?
From what I know, I tell you, and maybe it's a perception that people think the base dictates. From what I know, the strength of the CPDM party is that, and I've been in the CPDM party since, I can tell you, since 1990. I became an active militant of the party in about 1990 or so, and I've been an active militant since then. And I tell you, from what I know, and not only I say active, that is way before I became a minister, way before I became a coordinator, I was active because I was trained and groomed by so many good CPDM militants who were our leaders. There are so many of them. I've been mentored by so many people before I became what I am today, and some have left us, like the one we've just buried a few minutes ago, Honorable John Ebongole, the Minister Benjamin Itue, and the rest who are still alive. Former Prime Minister PM Mosonge and others, people like former Prime Minister Achidi Achu and others, and there are many. I mean, people like when you've been around with people like the late Chief Mukete, I mean, the late Fonangwafo, and you begin to see that you are a lucky person to have had a chance to have been around people like this. You see, the tendency is that people think that it is the top that decides. But from what I know, at more than 99%, the bottom always wins elections. The strength of the CPDM party is its base, because the CPDM party is a party that at the end of the day, through consultations, through consultation, formal and informal, and the CPDM party is a party that is expert in consultation,
And you have taken active part in many of them.
Yes, and I've taken part in many of these consultations, maybe informally and formally. The tendency is to make sure that the base is at ease with the decision, and that the decision is bottom driven by the base. And most of the time, in almost all the constituencies, this is what works. There are just a few cases where either the emotions are high, passions are high, or interest tends to be where, of course, the supreme interest of the party may dictate that certain decisions are taken. But this is an exception. The rule is that 99% of the time, the base decides how the CPDM moves. The strength of the party is its base, and this party does not joke with its base. And the national president has constantly reminded the party apparatchiks, either during a congress, extraordinary or an ordinary congress, that the CPDM party is not a party of the headquarters or for the headquarters. He says it's not a party of an état-major. It's a party of the people, by the people, for the people. It's a party of the common man, and that one should never ignore or suppress the common man. Sure, the common man too has his ambitions. He wants to be something, and he wants to express himself, or he wants to be something. It's very normal. And the tendency is to make sure that the common man's interests are taken into consideration, and that the common man's continues to see the party as its patrimony, as its thing, as its party. And that's what makes the CPDM the leading and the most successful party in out of the 318 political parties in our country. And people tend to think that all is decided at the top. From what I know, most comes from the base, and the top simply takes the decision, and because there's a lot of consultation that takes place.
All right, Prof, many people have been wondering, the CPDM has been there with its national president since the party was created.
Yeah.
Many people are saying, some people are saying, let me put it that way, that the party might cease to exist after President Paul Biya.
No,
Is that true?
I disagree. I've answered this question before, that those who think the party might cease to exist after President Biya keep forgetting that President Biya himself, who created the party and who is the architect and the inspiration of this party, has never claimed ownership or proprietorship of the party. Because first, it's not in his political vision and his political philosophy. He's never done that. He has always declared and expressed the fact that the party belongs to the people. It is the property, it is the patrimony of the people of Cameroon who are its militants, because it is an association. And so he is always, in his declarations, in his discourse, in the way the party is organized, made it known that let the party be the people's party, is the people thing, and let the party be run according to the will, the desires of its militants, who are citizens and the people of Cameroon. And so those who think that because he has been there, as your question says,
yes,
therefore it is his thing and he is the proprietor and it's his business, I think it's a misreading. It's an unfortunate misreading, because it is contrary to his declarations, it is contrary to his discourse, it is contrary to his political vision, and it is contrary to the way the CPDM sees him. The CPDM sees him as their champion. The CPDM sees President Biya as their champion, their inspiration, their founding president, their national president, and as far as the party is concerned, he is their man, and they have a lot to gain from him. If the day comes, as any human being, when he may decide, or the party may decide, that they will have to do with someone else, which is the case with many political parties in the world, I think this will be very natural, historically normal, and I think that the party will continue unless someone who comes from anywhere or from inside seeks to disturb the party. But the people who are the owners of the party, for whom the party is a common patrimony, will not accept that someone else should come from nowhere and destroy the party, because the party is bigger than an individual. The party is bigger than a few people. The party is bigger than the ambitions of certain individuals. And President Biya, whom we have our champion now, who is our national president, continues to educate us and to inspire us to know that this political party is our common commitment, is our supreme interest, it is our raison d'etre. It is what keeps us as one common space, one common agenda, one common objective. And we shouldn't spoil it. No individual has any interest or can succeed to spoil it. And therefore, we manage, it is a golden egg for us, because it is through that we can all say, Cameroon is a better country. Cameroon has been governed through the ideas and so forth that the CPDM stands for. And the CPDM continues to be the greatest supporter of the president's policies, because it's national chairman who is president, and continues to be the greatest supporter of the state policies, because the head of state is our national president. And we think that no one single individual will be able to destroy it or to turn it into something else, because the party is more supreme over any individual and over any individual interest. So the party will continue as it has been founded, and with the principles on which it was founded and the objectives for which it was created.
All right, Prof, you just spoke about policies. Let's look at the stand of the party on some burning issues in the country. We are 10 months after the major national dialogue. The crisis in the Northwest and Southwest regions is still there. Will it be fair to say that it was a failure on the part of the CPDM?
No, it will be unfair to say that it was a failure, because on the contrary, it was a success. And why do I say that? I said that, again, this is hard talk, but hard talk, we have to be frank. We have to be frank. Sure. Frankly speaking, anyone who says it was a failure is not only unfair, but is not basing his or her reading or criticism or observation on facts. What are the facts? The facts are, and I give the facts because I was honored and privileged to have been a participant, one of the 600-700 participants at the major national dialogue. But I wasn't only honored to be a simple participant. I was honored to have been elected and designated a vice president of one of the 8 commissions, the Commission on the Return of Refugees and Reconstruction, which had as president, His Eminence, Christian Cardinal Tumi. I was his vice president, and I tell you, I saw Cardinal Tumi work as any patriot, as any loyalist, as any citizen of conscience could work, because this is a man I saw who wanted a Cameroon in unity, in peace, and a better Cameroon for all Cameroonians. And I thought, working that close to a person like this, it was a great honor for me. And I think that this commission did a lot of work under the guidance, under the chairmanship of Cardinal Tumi. And I think the other 7 commissions did their work so well that the major national dialogue succeeded in ensuring that out of the 700 or so participants who were there, as you know, fact number 1, the majority of those 700 came from the Northwest and Southwest regions, as demanded by the President of the Republic, who was the initiator and organizer of the major national dialogue. And anyone can check this. I'm giving this as a fact. Fact number 2, the commissions were the work of the commissions were open enough, and every participant was free enough to make their contributions without any fear or favor, without any intimidation, and each person was allowed to say whatever they wanted to say without necessarily having to intimidate or insult the other. And at the end of the day, recommendations, major recommendations were drawn up. And these major recommendations were approved. They were not only read in the final plenary, they were approved and adopted in that final plenary, which was ably guided by our Prime Minister, who was the chair.
Who was the chairman of the Major
National Dialogue. I mean, he did such a good job, a wonderful job. He was down to earth, he was open to everybody, and he had a listening ear to the ground, and these major recommendations were read, placed before the audience, the participants. They adopted them, and guess what? They were transmitted by the Prime Minister to the President, who was the initiator and organizer. And guess what? The President accepted these major major recommendations. And he has begun implementing these major recommendations. In fact, before even the major recommendations were adopted by the Major National Dialogue, one of the recommendations which was adopted was that the President should release some of the prisoners or detainees who were detained over the problems in the Northwest and the Southwest. And as you know, before the end of the Major National Dialogue, more than 300 or so of these detainees, I think more than 300 were released all over the country.
The critics will say that there are still others in the prison.
Yes, but look at this. The total number of detainees that have been released so far over these Northwest-Southwest issues have been almost 700. I mean, they have been in different waves. I'm saying the wave that was during the Major National Dialogue was about 300, 400, if I'm not mistaken. But before and after that, other waves have taken place, the total being, you can check this because it's, again, fact. Again, this is frank and hard talk. Almost 700 detainees have been released. And, of course, it's natural for those to say some are still detained. But, again, as you know, these are issues of law. These are issues that have to do with the judiciary. Obviously, that the fact that others are still there does not take away the fact that almost 700 have been released. We should give credit.
Prof, yes.
We hope that more will be released. I think this is, I'm not against people being released, but I think that I'm one of those who believes in the law. I'm one of those who has a great admiration for men and women of the law. I'm one of those who has a great admiration for the freedom of people. I mean, as one statesman once said, yes, you should believe in the freedom of people and you should be ready to fight for people to speak freely, even if you disagree with them. Okay. This is very normal.
Okay, Prof. One big problem the people are raising in the Northwest and Southwest regions is the special status. Yes. Some people, critics, have described the special status as a farce, which explains why the guns are still rattling right up to this moment in the two English-speaking regions. Yeah. So if the Major National Dialogue is successful, then why is the special status delaying?
You know, again, this is hard talk. And in all frankness, those who continue to shoot guns here and there, in spite of the Major National Dialogue's success and the fact that the recommendations have begun being implemented, either still overridden by their passions and emotions and grievances and other things, or because maybe they have not yet quite absorbed or understood the fact that the Major National Dialogue's success lies in the fact that the recommendations were bold, the discussions were first of all bold, the recommendations were bold, and maybe some people have not yet woken up to the fact that these recommendations are real and serious. One of the recommendations, as you know, because you made allusion to it, is the special status.
Special status. Yeah.
You know, the special status is a new issue, and it's an issue full of great promise. And we have to digest what it is all about because it's so new. Because we seem to lose sight of the... Some people say, what is the content? Where is the content? You have to look at what exactly it talks about. First, the Parliament has just adopted the new code on decentralization, as you know.
Yes.
And that new code has given more precision to the special status in the sense that, one, the special status has defined and has guaranteed and has acknowledged that the Northwest and Southwest regions have a history, a culture in Cameroon, which is different from the other 8 regions. That is a great acknowledgement politically. We have to give credit. This is an acknowledgement that this is candor, this is frankness, this is the conscience of the Republic, which has said that, yes, the people of the Northwest and Southwest, you have had a different history and a different culture, and that has been expressed in the fact that your educational systems have been different, and that's why they call it, up to now, it's a subsystem. And that your judiciary systems have been based on common law, which is different from the judiciary systems of the other 8 regions, which are based on civil law. And that by virtue of the special status, the people of the Northwest and Southwest, with the grant of the special status, will continue to function on the basis of the common law system in their judiciary systems and the Anglo-Saxon types of educational system in their subsystem of education. That is another acknowledgement in terms of Republican conscience we should be very proud about. The other point about the special status is that people lose sight of the fact that because of the special status and the fact that the people of Northwest and Southwest, it has been acknowledged by everyone that they have a different history, a different way of doing things. Their national, their regional houses are not referred in the same way as the regional houses of the other 8 regions. I think the regional houses of the other regions are referred to as conseils régionaux, that is, regional councils. But the regional councils of the Northwest and Southwest are referred to as, I think, either regional houses or regional assemblies.
Regional assemblies.
Yes, and they are different in terms of structural organization and functioning, in the sense that while the other 8 regions, because of their history, function as unicameral assemblies or councils, the regional assemblies of the Northwest and Southwest function as bicameral.
With the House of Chiefs.
With the House of Chiefs. This is something which is new in the sense that since we became a United Republic of Cameroon, we didn't have this bicameral system in the Northwest and Southwest. But we are seeing it come back. This is incredible. We have to give credit where credit is due. And the other point about the special status, people keep losing sight of it, is that in the Northwest and Southwest regions, the regional assemblies, which have as executives and whose executive authority is vested in elected regional council executives, meaning the president of regional house and his executives are elected by the people of each of these 2 regions. There is also another mechanism which is not found in the other regional council, which is the mechanism of what they call the public, I think, conciliator, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, the public conciliator.
Yes. There is a mechanism of a public conciliator,
who is appointed by the head of state,
but with through consultations, having consulted with the regional authorities. You see, so it doesn't just come from the air. Whereas the other regional councils don't have that. And you know what the role of the public conciliator is? The role of the public conciliator is to conciliate, is to avoid problems, to avoid conflicts
between the state and the regions.
And the regions. This is something new. We have to, and the last point is that the special status will begin to get meaning when the regional assemblies and regional councils are set up, and the president has committed himself to ensuring that before the end of the year,
we're going
to have regional council, regional elections. These regional houses will be set up, and we will begin to see new regional authorities, unlike we have seen in more than 40 years.
All right, Prof, one other issue is the dialogue with the separatists, those who say they don't want to be part of Cameroon and they want to carve their own country from the existing regions that are in conflict. Recently, information filtered that the government met some Jot leaders. The government came out to say that the story as related by media is not consistent with reality. How people are asking, why is the government not open to dialogue with the separatist leaders?
No, when people ask the question, why is the government not open, it's as if people ignore the fact that the president himself has said, has declared, time without number, as many times as that I know, that his preferred option is dialogue of a Republican nature. Dialogue that is legal, legitimate, and Republican in nature. He's never differed from that. And he's continued on that path. And you know that much of our problems, if you've noticed, dialogue has always been one of the bases upon which some of these problems have been solved. Dialogue at the institutional level, dialogue formally and informally. And the major national dialogue was a form of dialogue. And, you know, as long as you believe in the values of the Republic, meaning the values of the fact that authority comes from the people, and that it is the people who, at the end of the day, are the masters of their future, dialogue will always be the basis. Institutions are there, but institutions don't come from heaven. Institutions are between you and I, and it is you and I that are the animators, are called upon to be animators of these institutions. So dialogue is always an important element, an important ingredient, and dialogue is always an important and an essential option, and the president has always said that's what he wants. But it should be a dialogue which does not destroy the Republic, which doesn't violate or defy the Republic. Is a dialogue which respects the laws, the institutions, and the values of our Republic, because there's nobody who dialogues to destroy themselves. There's nobody who dialogues to destroy his house or his village or his car, or I mean, we have something in common that we all call the common house, our home, our fatherland, our Cameroon. Our dialogue should be to make it a better Cameroon, and so that we can all have a better common future. Now, in the process, because dialogue is, first of all, not an event, it's a process. That is to say, it can start today, but it never ends, as long as you're a republic. And you might go to bed, and you say, okay, you finish at this stage. But after some time, it continues somehow again, because it will never end. As long as the Republic lives, dialogue will always continue. What is the problem is that some people tend to see dialogue as if, or they tend to define dialogue as if dialogue is just an event. That's a one-day thing or a two-day thing. And that when it's finished and they are wondering, what next? Dialogue never finishes. And dialogue is something which you do and you keep on adding on and you keep on hoping and you keep on. We are not perfect human beings. We are imperfect. And because we're imperfect, that is why we continue to perfect ourselves through dialogue, hoping that every day new ideas, it will enable us to come to the promised land, to reach the promised land, all of us. Now, the problem we have is that some persons not only define dialogue as an event, which is wrong, it is not an event, it's a process, but they also expect that dialogue gives definitive and one-time answers. No, dialogue gives answers which promise you even more questions in order for you to try harder and more to get more answers and get more promises. So there is no doubt that in the past dialogues, some people have not been in the mood to dialogue. Some people have been so overridden by their emotions and passions that they haven't realized that we are just human beings. We are citizens. We all want a better common future, a better Cameroon for us. It doesn't mean that if for some reason we have some reason to criticize or something didn't go right, it means we should be destroyed or we should destroy. It simply means that we're human beings and we should work harder. We should not lose sight of the fact that we need each other. And that, yes, we might have made a mistake here and there. Yes, we need to correct ourselves. But for us to correct ourselves, we must humble ourselves. We must open our minds up. We must be frank with each other. We must be of good faith. And we must be able to pardon, reconcile, forgive each other and say, Let us keep on forging ahead. Let us keep on talking to one another. We'll get there. And so we have some persons who have become more or less extremist. And they haven't realized that extremism is the surest way of blocking yourselves towards a better future. Extremism is the surest way of making yourself sick. Extremism is the surest way of blinding yourself to the fact that your neighbor is your friend. Your neighbor is the person that you need. Is someone you can run away from or wish away from. They need to open up. They need to open their hearts. Because at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We'll all come and go. But the nation will continue. And the institutions will continue. And so these persons who criticize or who have refused to take part, my own humble appeal to them is that the president has put on the table his heart, his will, and his goodwill to say, let's not war. Let us not shoot at each other. Let's just talk. Sure, talking should never end. Let us lower our emotions, our ambitions, our extremism, our passions, and let us come to the common understanding that we all have the conscience given to us by God. Okay. And with this conscience, we can all make it by coming together. We can all make it by being faithful and honest and frank with one another. We shall all make it by trying harder, by talking more and keep on talking. We shouldn't give up. We shouldn't despair, because the future is better and we are not so best that there are no other best. There will be other best, which will be better than our best. All right, and we should keep on trying.
All right. We have just two questions before we go. The first one is the reconstruction of the Northwest and Southwest regions.
Yes.
The coordinator of in charge of that, Minister Porter Song, rounded off a working visit there. And last week, it was a U.S. Undersecretary for African Affairs, Tibor Nagy, who gave a shocking revelation, who said that reconstruction is not of utmost importance, but what is important is for the people to have a say in their own affairs. What do you have to say about that?
Well, first, as you know, we have to understand Mr. Tibor Nagy, who is a very seasoned diplomat, and is a diplomat who serves in the American government as what we can refer to as the Minister Delegate or the Secretary of State for External Relations. He's the Assistant Minister of External Relations in the American system.
In charge of Africa.
In charge of Africa. Yeah. In the American system of government, there are several Assistant Ministers of External Relations in charge of several departments, several geopolitical areas, and so forth and so on. But Mr. Tibor Nagy is a good and seasoned diplomat who has served in Cameroon, as you know, in the early 1990s, under Ambassador Cook, as you know. Yeah. And he knows Cameroon. I think he loves Cameroon. But we have to understand, for us to understand him, let us not, in our passions, forget that Mr. Tibor Nagy is not a Cameroonian. But he loves Cameroon, and we should understand that as an American government official, Mr. Tibor Nagy, and as a seasoned diplomat, Mr. Tibor Nagy cannot violate or defy the American government's principled position on Africa and on Cameroon in particular. And the principal position of the American government on Cameroon is that the American government believes in the unity and peace in Cameroon. The American government does not believe in and does not want secession of Cameroon. Well, this is the principal position. It's a fact. You can check it. You can Google it and you know. But in the specific statement that Mr. Tibor Nagy said, Mr. Tibor Nagy expressed his pessimism. As opposed to being optimistic. He said he's pessimistic. He doesn't believe that the reconstruction will work. But don't forget, the reconstruction is a reflection of the goodwill and the commitment of the president to the Northwest and Southwest that there must be peace, there must be development, and the Northwest and Southwest must be reconstructed and done better than it was before. This is goodwill. And in Cameroon, there are also some pessimists, as you know. To be pessimistic does not mean that you are bad. The pessimism is an observation, it's a position you take based, but we shouldn't forget that the reconstruction is supported by our partners, the United Nations Development Program, the European Union, France, and others. There is no doubt that Sure, and I think that the leaders of the reconstruction, Minister Tazong and Mayor Njong, are good persons. I think Minister Tazong, I have no doubts of about his capacity managerially. I think the people of the Northwest and Southwest have suffered a lot in the last 4 years. There has been a lot of killing. And all of us who come from these two regions believe that let there be no more shooting, let there be no more ghost towns, let there be no more destruction of schools, let there be schools, because at the end of the day, we all need reconstruction of our minds, reconstruction of our roads, our homes, reconstruction of the young people. Look, there is money. This is a good initiative, which I think for 10 years is about $90 billion, and the first phase being 2 years. There is money. There is money. And when there's money and people are suffering, you cannot ask money to wait. The people need the money because the people need to be reconciled from their minds to their land. They need to. The people of North and South are good people.
All right,
These
Prof.
people love peace. They love unity. They are nice people. All that they want is that let them be given help. Let them be given free. Mr. Ndibo Naji, I mean, the President of the Republic, the decentralization is that people should be free in their localities. So what Mr. Nabi says, the people want to have a say in their local governance. That's what decentralization is all about.
Okay, Prof. We shall be taking our leave, but just a minute. What do you make of Honorable Johnny Ngole? You are just coming from his funeral. In just 1 minute before.
Yes, thank you. You know, Mr. Johnny Ngole, may his soul rest in peace, was not Ole Mambombo because he was Johnny Ngole, and I was Ngole Ngole, and he used to joke and say that I am double Ngole, he's single Ngole, and I said, you know, God made it so because my father is Ngole and I was named Ngole. That means I will support you doubly. We just buried him. He was not Ole Mambombo, but he was an elder because I'm a generation following his generation. And you know, I replaced him in the function of government from Kupe Manunguba. But he was also one of my mentors. He mentored me. I worked under him. And I think that he himself knows that I worked under him so faithfully and so loyally that I wanted to make sure that I was present when he was given the last honors. And I'm glad God gave me the energy to be there. We just buried him. May his soul rest in peace, and we hope God will receive him.
All right. Thank you very much, Prof, for being with us.
It's my great pleasure, and I hope that our audience has been enriched, and I will continue this conversation.
Exactly. And to you, televiewers, it was a pleasure being with you on this edition of Hard Talk. Until next time, bye-bye.